A team of researchers, including Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb, may have just found a trace of an interstellar object in the ocean, which Loeb believes could have alien origins. And he joins us now to discuss this. Welcome, Dr. Loeb.
Thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Yeah, great to have you join us. So please give us more detail, describe your work and what you hope to have found.
Well, it's a very challenging task. We followed on data about a meteor that landed about 50 miles away from the coast of Papua New Guinea in 2014. And when analyzing it, it became clear that it came from outside the solar system. It was moving too fast to be bound to the sun, and it had material strength that was tougher than iron. And so that raised the possibility that it may be artificial in origin, technological, a spacecraft, just like New Horizons that we sent out that will go to interstellar space, and imagine it colliding with an exoplanet like the Earth and appearing as a meteor. To find this out, it's not just a hypothetical question. We can actually go to the Pacific Ocean and search for it. And that's what we did. And it's a very challenging task because we're looking for fragments that were left behind from the fireball, the explosion of this meteor. And they can be a fraction of a millimeter inside, roughly the size of the head of a pin. And just imagine they're sitting on the ocean floor at a depth of about a mile, and we are trying to find them. And for that, we are using a sled with magnets on it, and we are assuming that these small droplets that melted off the surface of the object when it entered the atmosphere and burned up, those droplets would be attracted to the magnet. And so we were sort of moving the sled back and forth across a region of about 10 miles. And amazingly enough, we found the needle in the ocean.
So tell us what you found and why there is some indication or why you suspect that it might be interstellar in origin. And is what you're saying not just that it's interstellar in origin insofar as it came from outside of the solar system, but that it is evidence of intelligent design?
Well, so first about the interstellar origin, that became clear from the high speed of the meteor. Mm-hmm. And we discovered it based on government data. And then the U.S. Space Command issued a letter to NASA where it confirmed that the 99.999% that indeed this object was moving too fast to be bound to the sun, that it came from outside the solar system. And moreover, they released data about the fireball that allowed us to infer that it's tougher than all the space rocks that were identified by NASA over the past decade, 272 of them. So it was made of very unusual material. And that led me to initiate this expedition. And we have an exceptional team of researchers and support staff that allowed us to build this machinery that we are using to find those fragments that were left behind. And now we can actually look at the materials that we recovered. And amazingly enough, we found basically what is called the spherules. These are particles that are spherical, perfect spheres made of metal. And we can put them into what is called an X-ray fluorescence analyzer that allows us to infer the composition. And the composition appears to be different than commercial metals that we use here on Earth, anything that humans produce. But it's also different from asteroids, from rocks that previously were analyzed. And that makes, first of all, it implies that perhaps indeed it originated from a completely different environment. And moreover, perhaps it was manufactured in an artificial way, technologically. And, that would be the first time, the first time that an interstellar object was analyzed by humans. We can hold it in our hand, the materials. we retrieve them from the ocean. And the ocean is a perfect museum to collect those things because they do not get covered. If it fell in the Sahara Desert, for example, it would have been covered by dust over the past decade. We wouldn't find it. And so we're lucky on many fronts, also in terms of those small particles. It took us a while to find them because they were embedded in volcanic ash that basically covers the entire surface of the ocean floor. And so we had to, go with tweezers and isolate them, but after looking at them through microscopes. And, as of now, we have 11 of them. They are quite remarkable. You can see images of them that I put on my blog on medium.com. So if you just search for Avi Loeb at medium.com. In fact, I just a half an hour ago, I showed images of the last 2 that we discovered. But before that, there were 9 others. And they are quite remarkable. I mean, they're tiny, the size of the head of a pin. And these are the type of droplets you get from heating of any meteor that enters the atmosphere. But in this case, the meteor is very special, both in composition and in speed. It actually moved outside the solar system faster than 95% of all the stars near the sun. And that raises the possibility that it had some artificial propulsion. Why would it move so fast, even relative to stars near the sun? And why would it be made of materials that are far tougher than iron? And so now we have the materials. And I plan to bring them back to the Harvard College Observatory, where we have access to exceptional instruments. We can't have them here on the boat. We have some preliminary analysis. But once we analyze them, there we can quite conclusively figure out, first, that this object was interstellar, because we might find isotopes that you don't see in solar system objects. But moreover, we might figure out that it's actually technological in origin. Once again, because it's made of some alloy that does not appear in nature.
Yeah, well, speaking of the boat, I think we would love to get a quick tour. And also, many of those who follow sightings of UFOs have noticed a possible link between large bodies of waters like ocean to sightings of UAPs or UFOs. Do you think it's possible that there is alien life in the oceans, possibly traveling through larger bodies of water?
No, the way I interpret this is you can think of Voyager, New Horizons, Pioneer that we launched into space. These will go into the interstellar space. And, in 1 billion years, be functional anymore. So they will collide with a planet like the Earth and just burn up in the atmosphere. And perhaps the core of those spacecraft will end up at the ocean floor. And so, in fact, we might be searching for whatever is left behind. And in my last class at Harvard, I asked the students, if we find a gadget, should we press a button? Would you press a button? And half of the class said, no way. I'm worried about the consequences. Half of the class said, I'm actually quite curious to figure out what will happen. Maybe it's GPT 100. And I am very reserved. I will not you shouldn't worry, because I first will bring it to a laboratory. But I can show you around.
Yes, please.
In the boat, we can just go down. I'm currently in the upper floor. I'll show you. This is the captain navigating
wow.
the ship, which very fittingly is called the Silver Star. And, I'll take you down to the deck. So this is where we eat.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Here we're going out to the deck where it's a very nice boat. It's made of aluminum, actually. And what you see here is what is called the winch, which is basically a cable that is connected to the sled. The sled is basically, here we have a second copy of the sled. It has an array of magnets on both sides that collect magnetic particles that are magnetized, and they basically attach to it. And as this sled is dragged on the ocean floor, roughly a mile deep, so it's very deep and dark there. And we have also video cameras that take a picture of where we are going on the ocean floor and bring it back to deck. So basically, you can see the winch cable going into the ocean. It's right now it's dark, it's nighttime, and the sled is now a mile down from where the ship is. And just think about it, we're going about 10 miles on each line that we are surveying, and roughly a mile deep, and we're finding these tiny spheroids that are attached to the magnets that end up in our laboratory, and we will analyze them. And if you want to see images of the spheroids, I'll just go to my essays at medium.com. I can show you also the last two that as of just half an hour ago, I received, we were able to identify. So let me show you just these images. 1 second.
Okay, this is fascinating stuff. And just while you're going over to those images, you're saying that because the metal is the spheres that you've recovered are alloys, they're combinations of metals that we haven't, that are not naturally occurring. That is what the real kind of red flag is here, that they were made and not just, random particles that are crashing into Earth. This is evidence of extraterrestrial life.
Right.
Fascinating.
Yes, we can. Yeah, it's the composition, but we know that it's interstellar. Also, here is another image that is quite beautiful.
Can you tilt your camera down a little bit?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Okay. Wow.
Fascinating. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Loeb. We really appreciated the time you spent with us. And good luck with your mission. I know there are a lot of folks very interested in this particular issue right now, both because of the people that were lost in the submarine. Deep sea exploration is fascinating, and because of the recent reporting about some potential revelations about UFOs from the government. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me, and science can be exciting.
Indeed.
We'd love to have you back. Thank you. Thank you. More Rising right after this.
Bye-bye.